What does world-class real estate look like to you?
Try to combine old-fashioned traditional estate agent values, but with all the modern tech that can help you move that forward.
Excellent communication is at the heart of what they do.
Great real estate looks like strong leadership.
Consistency.
Thank you to Iceberg Digital for sponsoring the podcast and making all this possible.
Hello and welcome to another episode of World Class Real Estate Podcast. My name is Mark Worrall and I am joined once again by Mr. Ian Macbeth. We are recording this having not seen each other for 6 weeks, are we? Something like that. And I am very curious, is Ian going to be talking with an American accent? How are you, mate?
We are back. I nearly said good day then. That's like just not American at all. I was trying to think of something like an American phrase. Bucks. That's the only thing that I've brought into my vocab is I keep saying, oh, it's like $10. I keep saying bucks. Everything. But other than that, still very British. Got back about a week ago and interested to see what's gone on in the country because it's a little bit different over here. There's a lot of flags up and down. There's a lot of people who seem quite patriotic all of a sudden. Some rumours that we're going to talk about from a stamp duty tax point of view as well. I caught up with a lot of the avocado agents. It seems like one part of the market is flying and another part of the market or another section of a state agency is very quiet. So I think good to talk about that as well. And we've had some phenomenal guests on. You know, I've been listening to some of the podcasts back, but we were privileged to get 4 back-to-back great guests on, weren't we? So if anyone's not listened to those and they're just joining because it's like, Mark and Ian are back in the game and
September. Take life seriously again.
This one's going out tomorrow, so we can talk transfer window, we can talk kids going back to school. I've got a prediction on who I think has had the best transfer window, which you will be pleased to hear. So lots to cover. How are you? How was your summer, mate?
Very good, thank you. Yes, we had a couple of weeks in Spain. We've just got back from a family trip as well, so spent a lot of time with the kids. Because one of the reasons being it has been quieter at work. We had probably one of our quietest weeks when we got back from holiday. I was thinking, ooh. But then I was saying to you just off air, August has been that quiet month, time and time again in the estate agency. And I think we've probably come through a market that hasn't been as seasonal as it typically would. And now we're in a very normal property market. It's very typical. It is having those seasonal variations. So whilst work hasn't been super busy, what we have managed to achieve as a team is that we've made the most of the opportunities that have been there. And that's what I had asked from our team at time and time again in our morning meetings, saying, there might not be a lot going on, which means we have got to get the most out of every opportunity. And they have done. They've worked, really well over the summer. And I think that puts us in good stead for September and October, which I think will be fairly busy months. I hope that rumours of tax changes and the government testing things before the budget, I hope that doesn't breed uncertainty in the market. We've not really seen it so far after those sort of the tests, aren't they? They leak it to the press to test the reaction, basically. I hope that they don't affect the market, because I think talk of the budget last year did affect the market a little bit. There was quite a lot of uncertainty and what have you, but we've had the interest rates coming down, and we are seeing, like you, that certain pockets of the market are performing really well and certain pockets of the market are not performing well. And to the extent where some of us are scratching our head thinking, why is this house not selling?
I think everyone went on holiday. Like, I think that was a big part of the summer is everyone seemed to be on holiday. That just plays a big part. So, we spoke off camera about normal market in inverted commas, but August, typically speaking, summer holidays, especially the family markets that we deal with, is often a bit sporadic and a bit erratic. And it felt like at the start of the summer holidays, solicitors disappeared for 2 weeks. Estate agents disappeared for different periods of time. Buyers were off, sellers were off. But this will surprise you. We had our second highest listing month in August of the year.
Really?
Yeah, only January beat it. And I'm talking 20% higher than July, June, May, significant listings. Only January beat it, and that blew my mind. But the buyers didn't reflect that. The sales were all right, but they didn't reflect the listing levels like they have done in the past, where we've been hitting 80-90% of listings selling. So it's definitely quieter on buyers and general activity. But that makes me feel that in September and October, I feel, especially, I can only talk for around here, but I feel there's going to be a flood of listings when the kids have gone back to school. Like next week's valuations in the diaries, I think it's going
we've started to see that. To be fair, whilst we were quiet on valuations earlier in August, we've started to see now the pickup already, which you expect and you hope as well. You've September and October should be really strong listing months. It's still, and I talk to people like, get moved by Christmas, you've got to go somewhere even now. But I think there is a mindset. Christmas is a real line in the sand for people, and they think we want to get on. Some people will think we want to get moved by Christmas. Others might just be thinking we want to get sold by Christmas. So that's a real motivating factor that all estate agents should be focusing on, in my opinion, as we go into these months. But we definitely didn't have our strongest listing month for August. I think we had our strongest completion month. As we've had a lot that's come through that maybe been a bit stuck in the pipeline and what have you. But the market is what the market is, as we say whenever we talk about this. You've got to deal with the hand that you're dealt, which takes us probably onto the talk of property tax, which you may or may not have heard a lot about whilst you've been away. I'm sure you might have heard a bit of politics from the American people whilst you've been talking to them.
It's very interesting watching the news in America.
Yeah, but it was,
because it's it's a very different narrative to what we see from the UK perspective. It's very interesting to see the twist that the UK media put on the US economy and Trump and that aspect of things. It's very, very, as you would expect, because he's a controller of many things, but it's very positive, the news in America. It's a lot of positive stories. I obviously didn't sit there and watch hours of the American news because I can't stand most of their accents, to be honest with you. But it was very interesting just flicking on while the kids were getting ready in the mornings and whatever. Very positive news channels. Whereas the UK is typically like doom and gloom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And very positive about Trump and always highlighting the things that he's doing well over there and the deals that he's done, and speaking to a lot of where I was staying anyway, speaking to a lot of the people in more central, in more kind of proper America rather than tourist America, very pro the economy and what's gone on, which is very much the opposite of what we see over here. So they kind of really believe that for the first time put Trump to one side, but the government in the US have actually done some real positive things to the economy, and they're really trying to make it more about them. And interesting to see how that kind of translates over here, because it doesn't seem to translate in the same way, which doesn't surprise me with the British media or media in general. So
media in general, making America great again. Hey, there you go. So what is your view if we are faced with a stamp duty change or a removal of capital gains tax relief in property in the autumn budget? Do you think it's going to affect the market in the build up to the budget?
It always does, doesn't it? When there's like a change in people's money or circumstances, or we take the certainty away from a transaction, it always brings hesitation.
Yep. People don't like to transact at times of uncertainty in the property market, do they?
Yeah. Will they do it? Won't they do it? I don't know. Should they do it? I think, as we said off camera, should just leave things alone for the time being. I think that the most recent thing about inheritance tax changes was enough of a change that will, in a backwards way, have an impact on the property market, because most people's inheritance comes from property in the UK. That's where most of their wealth sits, within the equity of their main residence. I think that will actually have a long-winded, over the next 3-5 years and therefore after, impact in the property market that they shouldn't really change anything. The only thing that I still feel that needs to be done is to support first-time buyers with some sort of incentive somewhere along the lines, be it that they don't pay the stamp duty, like previously, up to a certain figure, or whatever the incentive is. There's multiple options, but I think a first-time buyer to have a little helping hand is never a bad thing. And I think they should just leave things alone. I mean, as I said to you, my stepdad picked us up from the airport. It's the first thing he spoke about. I didn't have a clue what he was talking about because obviously I didn't see any of it in America, and I wasn't on my phone too much because we were busy. And he just said it will stop them downsizing because they're viewing properties at the moment with a view of maybe leaving the home that they've been in for the last 30 odd years. They've got a big 5-bed detached house. There's 2 of them rattling around in there, him and my mum. They don't need that family home. It's perfect for primary schools. It's our generation's family forever home. They don't need to be in there. My mum can't clean the whole house anymore. She's too old. And they should be downsizing, but this will stop them downsizing in his eyes. So that's the only real sort of life lesson takeaway I can give to it, really.
Yeah, I've talked to a few people about it in the business, and a few family members when we've been discussing these sorts of things externally whilst we've been away over the last few days. And I think that's what I think will be the result of a significant change in stamp duty or primary residence relief, is we will see less transactions, which in itself will affect the economy. And if you think of how they boosted the economy when the economy needed boosting by getting rid of stamp duty, you think that is now a completely different take on it. Not surprisingly, but that is a completely different take on it. You might get more tax revenue from one part, but how does it affect the other? And as agents, I accept that we're biased, that we don't want to see less transactions. And that was my conversation with a family member that I had. We'll see less transactions. That's not good for me, naturally. But I think that also, if you just whack a tax on property, you'll also really limit property price growth potentially. Less transactions will generally mean less demand, which will mean less property price growth. So it depends which route they want to go down. But having said all that, we can't really change whatever they do. We can only change our reaction to it and our behaviour around it. And that's kind of the message that I've been giving to our team internally. If you are questioned on it, because people will be reading the newspapers and having those conversations, then in the same way we talked about the panorama thing, you've got to have your stance and be pretty firm with it. And actually, you can't sit there and with your head in your hands moping around, because that will affect your performance much more than any change in legislation or tax will do, in my opinion.
Yeah, feels like they've misunderstood where estate agents have, not that they probably listen to us, but they've misunderstood what we've been really searching for. We've been searching for some sort of relief on those family homes downsizing, because you remember the last time that we did the stamp duty change, the 15k came in, all of the families were on the move, everyone sped up their transaction by 3 years. Next year will be the first year where that's probably no longer still an influence on the market. This is probably the last year of that. But what that did is just cause this massive stop at the top of the chain where people just refused to downsize, but people needed to upsize. And it showed us that actually there's a lot of people in these big family homes that we don't need to, but we would love to see them downsize to free up those family homes for families. Not now that people are living longer, which is amazing, but they're staying in the family home when the family have left, and that's stopping the move. This would be a penalty to that. It would be relief for the buyer buying the £1.2 million house, for example, and it would hinder the seller. It's the opposite of what we need. Yeah. It's like, cool, leave the buyer alone. They're going to pay a lot of stamp duty tax on that, but they understand that, 60k or whatever it is. But let's incentivize in some way the seller to move, where I don't know how they would monitor it. But for me, if you were downsizing, I think you shouldn't pay stamp duty tax on your purchase. That would be a great way to do it. But we'll see what happens with that in general.
Yeah, but we'll see. And also, we've got a fair amount of time yet until we find out. But like I say, when they leak these things, it's always a test, and it's probably not a coincidence that this information has come out. It doesn't come out by accident. There probably is going to be some form of change. I think we should be ready for that and hope that it doesn't affect things too much. We've actually had a bit of an uptick in activity since those rumours came out, and activity at the higher level, and you wonder if people are sitting and waiting, or are they thinking, right, I'll get in before any changes, particularly at the higher level if they're looking at those things. So you never know, we could have that positive effect as well. You said that you've got some pretty strong opinions on what we will see in the market over the next 6 to 8 weeks before we hit recording. So what's your prediction for the autumn market in a world that is already feeling very autumnal up north, by the way?
Yeah, I just feel that we are going to see a huge influx of listings over the next 2 months, and the result of high listings will draw buyers out. I think we'll see a lot of families moving, and the big part of my kind of rationale behind that is I think there's been a lot of people that have held off. Mortgage rates have they climbed a little bit, then they dropped, then they went plateau, then they dropped, and now they're kind of just murmuring back up, maybe potentially. We've just had that reduction to 4% on the base rate, and I think people are kind of like, okay, I know where I am, lay of the land now. And I think the cost of renovating a house is just so out of control that there is no reason for people to do extensions and garage conversions and kind of go out the back unless they're in that true forever home with a plot that warrants it. And I think all of those things coincided with, maybe it's because we had such a strong listing month last month as well in August. I just feel like we're going to see a big influx of valuations, people looking to move. That will draw more buyers out because there's more availability. But then we will see by October this flood of listings, available stock, and then we will see stuff sitting on the market that we wouldn't expect to, just because of the variety and options for buyers. Don't necessarily think we'll see a drastic uplift at the same ratio in buyers, and that's going to leave us at the end of the year with this like big stockpile of for sale properties and people kind of questioning what's going on. And that's very normal at that point. Some people will come off market and come back on in the new year. Estate agents have to be strong and confident with their pricing, with their fees. And I think we'll just see this kind of big kind of pop of listings sat for sale and availability of stock, I think, towards the end of the year. And that will probably see some touting, at a high level if people have got time to do it. And it will just see that market be where we're kind of like, right, everyone is busy fools, and you have to focus on the quality, and you have to say no to valuations if they're overpriced. And not everyone will, so stuff will come on at too much money, and the good agents will say no to that. And you've got to be busy in the right areas as a world-class agent, basically. But it'll be harder to be world-class because of the FOMO of seeing a lot of listings hit Rightmove every morning that you weren't called out to, basically.
Yeah, I'd like to disagree with you to make a more interesting episode on the podcast, but I could see that prediction happening because we've kind of been there a little bit anyway with Rightmove reporting about decade high levels of stock and what have you. We've seen some really savvy buyers over spring and summer who are picking off houses or trying to pick off houses, and some clients we're in that market now where I've said to I'm thinking of one particular client that I've got, but I imagine most agents have been in this position. This offer is the best offer that I think you're going to get, and now 4 weeks on, clients bought something else, and that property probably doesn't sell. And the challenge is finding the motivated sellers that are really wanting to move in a market whereby, if there are going to be a big influx of properties, there's going to be a lot of options for you as an agent. You've got to make sure that you're choosing to work with the motivated ones, or certainly trying to. You can't get it right every time, because you're right, you can end up running around listing load of houses. And I think, like I said when I started today's episode, I think there probably is going to be some houses where you're left scratching your head thinking, why is this not selling?
Yeah.
And you think, I've got everything right. The house is presented well. It's in a good spot. It's priced well. We're a good agent, so we're not the problem with this house. And then to just discuss your second point in regards of touting, I think in the market where there is a lot of stock already, if there is a lot of stock coming to market, you've got to be really careful what secondhand stock you take on. There's loads of secondhand stock on the market that we look at, and I'm like, don't want it. And somebody, we get alerted if somebody views one of our valuation pages a period of time after we've sent it, and I had that alert yesterday, and I had a look at the property, and I thought, I'm not even going to call them. This is bad, right? And this is a 10 grand fee. It would be for us, but I don't think that house is selling in this market at that price.
Yeah,
and I think you've got to be really picky about it. I think I valued it at less they went on the market for. They're now on at less than my valuation, but I think the damage has been done. What?
Oh, they are on the market, are they?
Yeah, they're on the market.
Yeah.
They went on, we lost it. They went on the market with another agent. I think it went on higher than my valuation, but they're on lower than my valuation now anyway. So you think it's going to be a very difficult conversation to say, oh yeah, I thought it was worth that. Now I think it's worth 100 grand less. And that's, you've probably got to have the conversation with them, but I didn't ring them. I might ring them today, but I thought, I don't really want it.
In that transition of like from agent to agent, the only stuff that you can list is at your fee. Ultimately you're not negotiating, but at what I call new listing price. Where it's sat there for the public to see at X. Let's call it 700 grand. New listing price for that 700 grand house is not 680. It's not 675. 665, 660, ideally 650. That's new listing price for that property, isn't it? And you have to make a decision on your time whether you go, right, we're now on at we're on at 750, we came down to 725, we're now on at 700, we're not getting any viewings, and you have to go, well, look, you need to be on at new listing price, which really is going on at ultimately the 650 to make the move happen, and it will horrify the life out of them because it's a 100k swing, but that's the conversation you have to be honest. And you could accept a 665 price, maybe it's enough of a swing, it's enough of a percentage to make it work, but to accept a 650 offer really, and otherwise it's just not worth having,
exactly. And I think that that's the question to be having with people when we are touting and looking at the second-hand stock is, what price are you willing to move at? Because often, if they are going to a second estate agent, their motivation is not, I'm going to give up, I'll give it a rest. Their motivation is, we want to move. So your job in that is to test how strong that motivation is, and then the strength of your character, ability, personality, whatever it might be, is being willing to walk away if they're not. If they say, "Oh, we'll come down to 680," we'd accept 675, so we'll do 680. It's probably not enough in this in this market, particularly if your prediction comes true and we see more properties coming to market. Because we've talked about it before, people seem to be focusing on new properties for sale, not reduced properties. And that
the reduced sticker is the problem. That really is the problem for people. I think if you're an agent and you're kind of still following the process of, we'll put it on, we'll see if it bites, we know they're motivated, so 14, 21 days later, even 28 days later, we'll just drop it down to the real price. That is not the strategy that you can attract, because people are just they're just very anti those sort of things, and the reduced sticker is something that people are anti of. From the seller's perspective, talking about touting, really the only way for them to feel fresh again is to not have a reduced sticker, is to change agent, so if you want to put yourself at risk of having a reduced sticker on your stock, they're actually better off changing agent at that point with the relaunch, with it looking for sale from a certain date, at potentially a new price, and without the reduced sticker, which is the kind of the warning light. The other thing is offers in excess of, another thing that I know I'm quite controversial with certain things, but I'm very anti offers in excess of, unless it's a particular threshold. That's another thing that I just think is the worst pricing strategy that you could attract to your stock. We're not in a market for people to pay over asking price, so don't confuse the public, don't confuse the buyers. And someone said to me the other day, I'm looking at this property and it's got this OIE thing on it. I was like, okay, offers in excess of. He's like, how much over? I was like, I don't know. Because I just don't know. Is it $5,000? Is it 50? I don't know as an agent, so the public don't know.
Yes, yeah, and that's the problem with offers over. But really interestingly, I disagree with that opinion, because we've seen certain pockets of our market pop. We're still getting properties, if they're right, at the right price, pop and go over. As part of this sort of two-tier market, some properties you think will, just don't. But we've still got some properties in certain price brackets at the lower end of the market, mostly, that offers over is working for. I don't like offers in excess of. It's too many letters, but offers over is working still on certain properties for us here. So it just depends on your regional difference, doesn't it?
And also, there is a place for it. It's just don't use it frequently as a way to get a price reduction. If you're listing. It's
got to be new. It's got to be new.
It's got to be new, yeah. And it's also got to be at a threshold. If it's a 670 house and they really want to sell it, and you can do 650 offers over to bring in, then it's a price. It's a good strategy for that. If it's worth 650 and they really want 660 to make the deal work, and they can't move for less than 660, and you go, well, let's try 650 offers over and get you the 660. That's not the strategy. Or if it's on at 675 and you're reducing it to 660, telling them that you're still getting 675, you just need the price reduction for the Rightmove relisting. It's not the strategy. That's where 90% of the agents will use it, and that's
I agree.
The wrong place.
I agree with that.
So lots going on. Lots to talk about, and it'll be interesting to see this time next week when we re-record, when all the kids have gone back to school, how things have moseyed along as well. Transfer window last night, what do you reckon? Who's had the best transfer window in the Premier League?
It's very hard, as much as it pains me to look away from Liverpool. I mean, we're not far from Liverpool. I've got quite a few Reds, unfortunately. And one of the football dads said at the start of the window, "We're going to do this. We're going to get Isak." He said all along, "We'll get Isak. We'll get Gay." Blah 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 blah. They look strong already, getting stronger. I think we've had quite a good window. I can't remember a time where the window has closed as an Everton fan, and I've been so happy. The new ownership is looking pretty much like they know what they're doing. We've come through a very turbulent time on that. And of course, we've got the new stadium, and we've got Jackie Boy, Jack the lad, the perfect fit, the cult sensation. I will be going to my first home game in a couple of weeks, so very excited about that. My brother-in-law, who we're sharing the season ticket with, has already been absolutely buzzing. The stadium is just a feel-good factor. We're fifth in the league, Ian. We could stop the season now. Be very happy.
I think, who did you beat at home the other day? Was it West Ham or someone like that?
Yeah,
and I watched it on Match of the Day, and I looked at the stadium and was like, that looks pretty special. I think if you were to weigh up a transfer window, value for money, biggest improvement to the squad, you've got to give it to Everton. Like, you just have to. The players they brought in are first team players that will go straight in. Shrewsbury Hall, great signing alongside Grealish, great setup. It's just with Moisey in charge, they just look like the Everton that they were when he was back there, which is going to challenge for getting in the top half and push the big boys. So, I think
it's very different from the first game of the season when we got beat 1-0 to Leeds. And it was some of the worst football that I've ever seen us play. It just goes to show football can change very, very quickly. They've had 3 wins in a week, and your boys made a profit in the transfer window.
300 million of sales, yeah. But people say the project, won't work. I think that there's a lot of egg on people's faces from a Chelsea point of view from last season. I don't think we'll win the league this season, but we're a better squad off the back of the last transfer window. I just can't believe how far they've stretched the Coutinho money at Liverpool. It's unbelievable, really, that's still because they've got no oil money, obviously, and they can't compete with the big boys. But to break the transfer record twice and spend €500 million or whatever it is in one window, it's just amazing how well that Coutinho money's going.
Interest must have invested it well.
Must have invested it well. Probably not in property over the last 2 years.
It's gonna be an interesting season, isn't it? You've got United, who I was really upset that they came back and won that game on Saturday. I thought after I watched the Grimsby them get beat on penalties by Grimsby, and unfortunately United, they seem to be the team that at the moment I love to watch implode. Maybe it's because it's not Everton now and the media focus is elsewhere. You've got Spurs, who have got the new manager but have been very Spursy in the transfer window. And then, of course, Chelsea improving, but probably should have signed a centre-half. I don't know how you, and Liverpool, to be fair, sell young or players not good enough for the first team for massive money. It is a skill that Chelsea have got down to a T. Nicholas Jackson at 70 million. Now, to me, that just looks like an awful lot of money for a striker who is only going to play second fiddle to Kane anyway.
Yeah, that transfer is they're now obligated to buy him. So somehow they pulled out €81.5 million for that deal for a striker that is terrible. So yeah, someone at Chelsea is doing some serious negotiating on the sales aspect of things. So yeah, I mean, we talk football forever, but it will be very interesting to see what happens this season. Nice to see the teams that have been promoted, come up and get some points on the board as well straight off the bat, which is great. So yeah, and the deadline window, Villa did some good deals. Yeah. So they've been the whipping boys, haven't they? But Villa did some good deals, and people just need to stop signing for Liverpool. Their squad is so big now. Let Carragher tag him on this. It's out of control. They've got too many places. They need 2 buses now to get them. People need to stop signing for Liverpool. Carragher. How is he still on Sky Sports? I don't know. There we go.
The one final thing I'll say on it is I did notice that the other team that is owned by Todd Boehly and Clear Lake Capital, did they sign 6 or was it 9 players from Chelsea this summer? There's
a lot of Strasbourg deals going on. I saw a meme where it had Todd Boehly saying, "Do you want to sign Chilwell?" And then Todd Boehly on a mirror reverse going, "Yes, I will sign Chilwell." Oh dear.
Yeah. It just makes a mockery of PSR, but it'd be really interesting. We talk property market 6 to 8 weeks. We'll know in 6 to 8 weeks virtually where we're going to finish the year. So it'll be really, that 6 to 8 weeks we'll know which football teams are going to be at which end of the Premier League season, and we'll know as agents exactly where we're going to sit at the end of the year. So exciting time to knuckle down. Kids are back at school, and it's time to get some real work to finish the year, isn't it?
Yeah, roll our sleeves up, get cracking, be sensible with your valuations. Make sure you've got a business plan, strategy. Relook at those kind of 2025 goals. I did that yesterday actually, and just realign how you're getting on with your goals personally, professionally, from an office point of view. get yourself ready for your end of year reviews, or to be reviewed if you are a member of staff listening to this. Make sure you know what you're looking to get from that one-to-one, from that review. Make sure you're prepared, for your staff and as a member of staff for the review. Make sure you've got some realistic strategy around the targets for 2026, and just keep an eye on that pipeline, and make sure that we keep those pipelines concrete over the next 8 weeks. It's the real difference of having a very good year versus an average year, is going to be what you do with that pipeline, because I have no doubt that people's pipelines are of a decent size coming out of the summer, and I think they're only going to grow over the next 8 weeks. So that's going to be a key part of the strategy as well for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly if there are some changes coming in tax, you've got to be really close to those pipelines, making sure that your relationships with both buyers and sellers are really strong.
Yeah,
and make sure that you can carry them through. So great to get back together. Nice little catch up. We'll predict the market, and hopefully this time next week know a little bit more where September might be looking. See if those predictions come through. As you know, we do this because we love our industry. We want to see it improve and get better. I'm Mark Worrall. He's Ian Macbeth. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you again next week.